Devil in Silver. Let's just cut straight to it. This show has no weak episodes, which is further enhances the claim that I've always had that whenever you make a show, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, not the sweet spot. Rarely ever, but 6 episodes. 6 episodes. If they hit this last one, if this last episode hits a home run, 6 episodes to me is a sweet spot for narrative. I feel it because honestly, episode 4 and 5, I think it was a number in the system. Episode 4 and Vermilion, episode 5 continue to uphold the level of quality that I have come to expect from the show thus far. The characters are being pushed further. One, into my admiration and further into my empathy, but narratively and in terms of stakes, there are things here that have been breaking my heart, particularly when it comes to Dory. Now, you guys already know that this whole series of me reviewing episode by episode is completely with spoilers. I'm spoiling shit, so just remember that going into this video. If you've already followed thus far, though, I would imagine that you're okay with it or you've already seen it. So, episode 4 is already hilarious. Starts off very funny. Dan Stevens is telling a story on a table, in the dinner table with our cast of characters, and it seems to me like he's either playing the role of someone who's going completely crazy being there, or he actually is going crazy there. But I love watching Dan have such a good understanding of balance when it comes to delivering comedy and then delivering his serious Artur performances. But this guy, just Dan Stevens as Pepper, has just been such a hoot to watch him become this like character that suddenly cares about all of these other individuals who at the very start he was like, I want nothing to do with you fuckers, you're all fucking crazy. And to the center, at least for episode 4, we've got Lucci, we've got Coffee, we've got Dory, and we've got Dan, and we're moving forward towards this final attempt at trying to see what's on the other side of the silver door. Like, whatever this thing is, we need to kill it. We finally decided that now is the point of action. And Dory has been a standout, particularly. I think her story, which we go into in episode 5, is actually quite tragic. The idea that her husband was realizing that she was unstable to some extent, to the point where he tricked her into going to a dinner, had her all dressed up just so that she could walk into the director's office and then get lobotomized, forever being stuck there. And that was so fucking hard to process for me because she was such a... I remember in episode like 2, I think I said she was like one of my favorites because she just rambles. She says some crazy shit, but I always said like she's dropping hints, she's dropping wisdom, she's dropping nuggets of plot. I didn't realize how important she was to the plot, especially in episode 5, where you get a very distinct, early on, you get a very definitive understanding of what brought her there and the hard life that she's lived, and having to confront that. Of course you'd go fucking crazy. Like, are you kidding me? You're betrayed by your husband, lobotomized consistently, as if it's just some little small button on the back of a router box, just some reset. And they make it a point to let you know that even now she still gets those, because guess who she's somewhat in line with? The very entity itself that is taking the persona of the original director of the institution. I should have known, though, because they were slowly playing her down to then, and I noticed that they were playing her up because, again, she can't have all this information and not be essential to whatever revelation or secret we're going to have. And sure enough, she was. We have her having the conversation with the director about how she's doing her part to keep everyone in line, but then when she later on realizes that the entity gives no fucks about that, he wants everything to go as planned so that he can leave and go outside. And that to her was a complete shock. It was a complete like shock in that moment. Like, no, I mean, I've been working to give you what you want so no one else gets hurt, but you going out, that can't happen. And her outcome of her climbing that barbed wired fence in her dress that she was, and that's actually really sad because she takes the dress that she was institutionalized in, that really nice dress she wore thinking she was going on a dinner date in the 60s. She has that dress presently, takes it out, dresses as if she was, like she was before she was admitted, and then kills herself in that dress as if resetting or as if ending her life with that final image, that whatever happened after she was admitted never happened. Like, she was erasing it. It was like she was, by putting on that dress, she just erased the decades of her being there and just went back to that one final day and then ended it there. And it was really depressing, man, because she really did suffer being with someone who was already thinking about, going, I can't take care of her. Like, I can't do this. She's got to go. She never had a chance, dude. And it just, watching that was such a heartbreaking thing, such a heartbreaking heartstring moment for me, because I really, really loved Dory, man. And even when she on occasion did things that were very gray area, like, you could understand that she was being manipulated by this thing because she's got so many resets. She's had so many lobotomies against her will that even then she tried to hold on to a morsel of humanity. And that entire thing was just fucking hard to like witness, like her ending that way. Another character that got their end was Coffee, which I believe they said her real name was Koofy. And Dan's had a little humorous number with that. Did you know his name was Koofy after he died? Like, he was trying to like grasp what his real name was, after his death to, like, I guess, honor him. But Coffee died. How did he die? Well, he got shot by the cops. We finally go behind the silver door because Dan meets the entity finally, and Coffee and Lucci go there to rescue him. All this shit happens, and Coffee ends up inside of the room where this entity slash creature slash old man is being kept. And we finally see what's behind the door. And it is disgusting. Decades and decades of bodies just dead, festering, just decaying, just pure decay for what must have been decades and decades of bodies that this thing's been feeding on. And Coffee falls into this room and it just goes mad with the realization of, like, I've always wanted to see what's behind this door. And now that he sees it, it breaks him. And he runs. And in the most unfortunate way and at the most unfortunate time, there are two cops there called by the current director of the institution. And they see him run towards them going, I forgot what he says, but he's like, the devil's here, the devil's here. And he's got something in his hand. He's got a fork. Next thing you know, they shoot him dead. Coffee's dead. And it broke my heart again. Because Coffee, man, this is the crazy thing about this show, is I wanted every single one of these characters to have a happy ending. I really did. And I don't usually care. Like, when in a horror film, I like unhappy endings. I genuinely love dark endings. But there's just something about these characters and seeing their moments of light and darkness in between these very, terrifying moments, to see him just die so unceremoniously by cops while screaming out the truth, because you know that what he's saying is the truth, and he's screaming out the truth, and they just shoot him, they kill him. And that broke me, man. I was like, no. And then we got Dory's death afterward. Two characters that were a victim to their circumstances. And what's funny is that, what's sad is that Coffee was someone who was studying to be an engineer. So he had a bright future, man. He was someone that circumstances would have it that he wasn't able to have a healthy future. But what we knew about him being an engineer, being someone who was very very much loyal to Pepper, to Dan Stevens' character in that time that they became friends. Very loyal. Never questioned anything. He was just happy to have a friend. And I just love Coffee because even though he had a very vulnerable, soft spot to him as a character, a very empathetic side of him, there was also a I'm ready for war kind of part of his character that made it so that this trio between Lucci and Coffee and even Dory at some points, there was just a group to root for. Which then brings me to Lucci. Lucci was faced Dory about the realities of her, working with this entity, and it was brought to our attention that the reason that the entity doesn't even fuck with Lucci is because she's already given up. She's chosen to comply, even though she has a sort of mean mugging, rebellious attitude, but she complies. She complies, and that's where you start layering in the themes of when you give up. The damage is already done. You've already lost if you give up. So why would something evil try to pursue you when you've already chosen to lose? And that's why the entity doesn't choose to fuck with her, because out of all of them, she's the one that's decided she doesn't want to fight anymore. And she convinced herself that giving up was an act of rebellion, when in fact it wasn't. And the entity saw that as such a weakness, that he was like, well, she's killing herself without me having to, so why should I? And I thought that was a really interesting allegory for quitting before trying. The movie's just really smart on layering all these very human challenges and obstacles in front of you that are emotionally based, and making this entity the root of the reflection of these realizations. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? How is this writing so good? And this show's been fantastic. We are finally moving towards the point where everyone, 2 deaths in, a couple days, I'm assuming, within the show. And everyone who's there, Scotch Tape and the rest of the employees have finally realized, we can't keep turning... we can't just keep turning a blind eye to this. We can't just keep doing this. And the way that it's set up now is that episode 6, there's a hurricane happening. God knows if that's the entity that's manipulating them to believe that the hurricane is happening, or there's actually a storm, or it's just perfect timing, or conveniences in writing. But we're all stuck there. And now we're all victims. Now there is no hierarchy. There is no echelon. There is no employees and the sick and the mentally ill. Now we're all here about to confront the reality of what some have decided to ignore, which could be an allegory for ignoring mental health. And then for the ones that have been trying to confront it and could not be heard, but now it's too late because everyone's dead. The point was to be believed before any damage was done. And now that the damage is done, of course you're going to believe us, you fucking pieces of shit. It's so great, dude. This show is so great. I've yet to find anything negative about the show. Me personally, I'm just all the way in for this ride. If they hit that final episode, might be in talks for one of my favorite things I've seen this year. There is also one of the employees who, she is a very devoted Christian, and she talks about how her faith is what keeps her working at this facility, even though she should have been retired long time ago. We're sort of I like that it was her faith that slowly started making her see this entity, this thing, this man on the other door, something other than just human. It was this she referred to this entity called the Pootie, I believe, which can pretend to be anything else, but if you throw grains of rice at it, it will forever count the grains of rice and stay stuck in place because it has to count them. And she goes to the room, and she goes past the silver door, and she meets the old man, which is the shape by which this thing is deciding to take, which is really interesting because you saw the room with Coffee, decayed bodies all over. But when she enters it, she doesn't see anything except the old man who's been said to be there for decades on some kind of life support, which is really interesting to think someone would be that isolated and kept alive for that long. At some point, someone's pulling the plug, but that's already weird. It's like, wouldn't you question that? But after finally kind of deciding that maybe she's ready to believe, she threatens this thing. And it's interesting to see that it's her faith that carried her for carried her further into this confrontation, the setup for a confrontation, which I'm sure in episode 6, he's gonna remember that, and she's gonna regret saying that. But that was a great setup. But I thought it was interesting that it was her faith, not her medical expertise or her years of nursing, nothing. It was her faith that brought her into believing what's been keeping her there, one, and two, what brought her to believing that this entity is in fact pure evil. Dory kills the director. She loses her mind, completely cracks, thinking that the current director is in fact possessed or taken over by the one that she's been serving. And at that point, again, another nail in her cross for me of like, fuck, any bit of sanity that you had left has been completely taken from you. No autonomy, no control, nothing. And I just, again, more heartbreak. And that was all in episode 5. Like 3 people died in episode 5. God damn. I think Coffee died in 4 at the end of 4, but fuck. And one more very important thing was the confrontation between Dan and the entity that takes the shape of the original director. And he has him hallucinate that he's in a restaurant with his 3-year-old kid who he had abandoned at 3 years old, and kind of gives him this. He sits down and shows him what Dan has been grieving secretly, which now you can understand. Everyone knew, no one knew except him. And now as an audience member, we are let in that a lot of the reason he is the way that he is because he's been suffering from that guilt. And the entity says like, hey, I can erase this pain. You can forget him. You can forget her. And by her, it's his girlfriend, because she's leaving to Orlando and taking her, her kid, who Dan took as his own. And the entity tells him like, hey, I can take this away from you. I can remove this pain from you that's been digging inside you, that's made you half a person for all your life. Like, I can remove that. Wouldn't you want that? And I mean, again, you could take that as, the abusive medication, finally complying with that, giving in to any solution you can find, and numbing yourself to the realities that you have to face it. And this entity is providing you with the opportunity to willingly choose to not face it and just erase it without any work. And if anyone's gone through therapy, if anyone's had something hard in life, that's not easy. That's not easy. Turning it off doesn't work. And at some point, it always comes back. It always builds up silently until you finally crack. And I thought that, that was a really good scene for Dan to really, one, flex his actor muscles, but two, to really push what kind of incentives this thing is masquerading around as opportunity and power. Forget the things that you should grieve. Forget the things you should resolve. I can take it away. The same way that medications are said to do that to you, or pure ignorance towards something you should take, you should handle. It's just brilliant shit. This is brilliant fucking shit. Anyway, really hyped for episode 6, final one in 2 days. I can't. I hope they hit that home run. That last episode, that last shot, I really hope they hit it, because this is a fantastic horror show, man, with so many layers and so many characters that in just 6 episodes I fell in love with. And I think that is why I say, like, if your writing is tight and your writing is good, 6 episodes is more than enough. 8-10 episodes, I rarely find any show needs that much unless you're Breaking Bad. That's my review for today. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me yap about fucking nothing, because you're bored and I'm bored, and so we're bored together. I appreciate you guys always showing up, and always I know the the regulars that show up to all the videos. I appreciate you guys, and everyone else who is new as well. We're growing pretty rapidly. So anyway, guys, I will be back tomorrow with a movie, and I will not be back with a little review of this until 2 days from now. Look. Anyway, thank you guys, and as always, I will see you at the movies.